and our players across the league are too often the targets. This is not something any player in this league should have to tolerate.
Do you think Caitlin's being used as a pawn? Mm-hmm. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening, and that, I think, is what's been such a shock.
People are absolutely reeling from the latest developments, and honestly, who can blame them? Everyone's scrambling to connect the dots. But trust me, the real story traces back to one pivotal turning point. Stick with this until the end, because that's when the full picture snaps into place, and you'll understand exactly why the Indiana Fever are on the verge of some truly seismic changes. The franchise just detonated a wave of announcements, each bigger than the last, including a revelation about Caitlin Clark that left fans stunned. But the shock waves didn't stop there. In a long overdue move, the iconic Sue Bird didn't just speak out about racism in the WNBA, she tore into it with unfiltered force. This wasn't a polite comment or a diplomatic sidestep. She came in with metaphorical fireworks, dropping truths that hit like explosions. And the Fever's reaction? Anything but quiet. Their response made it crystal clear. Massive shifts are coming, and they're coming fast.
There is one thing I want to reset, that we want to reset, and it's the language being used around fans. Mm-hmm. Fever fans, Caitlin fans, new fans. That actually has to...
And here's what makes Sue Bird's stand so astonishing. She didn't hold back for a single second when she sat down for a no-filter conversation with the equally outspoken Megan Rapinoe. This wasn't some lighthearted back and forth. Sue walked into that podcast fully aware that speaking this openly, this boldly, could stir backlash or even cast shadows over her iconic legacy. But she pushed forward anyway. On that platform, she didn't tiptoe around the issues. She went straight to the heart of the matter, asking why Caitlin Clark has become the target of such fierce criticism and, at times, racially charged hostility. She questioned why Clark's brilliance on the court and her undeniable rise in popularity and commercial success is so often minimized or brushed aside. And then came the moment that sent shockwaves through listeners. Sue suggested that some fans are starting to wonder if there's a deeper, systemic effort working against a young superstar. She didn't claim a conspiracy, but she acknowledged that the conversation is out there and it's growing louder.
Yeah. Did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her. So I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
So let's hit rewind and zero in on the spark that ignited this entire firestorm. It started in a moment that appeared completely harmless, at least on the surface. After a game D, Carrington was approached by journalist Christine, who asked about what she described as an odd occurrence. Nothing unusual there, right? Athletes face these kind of questions constantly. It should have been just another routine post-game exchange. But not this time. Before anyone could even process a question, Megan Rapinoe jumped in and pushed back hard. She argued that, despite sounding straightforward, the wording carried a subtle but troubling racial undertone. And in that instant, the atmosphere shifted. What began as a standard interview suddenly cracked open into a far deeper, far more uncomfortable interpretation of the moment. Just like that, the conversation morphed into something explosive, shattering the idea that this was just another benign post-game inquiry and introducing an entirely new and deeply unsettling perspective.
Obviously, hearing it initially, my visceral reaction was like, that's not good. That doesn't feel good. That feels racist, to be honest.
And let's be real, Rapinoe's first instinctive reaction was essentially, that sounds racist. And once that spark hit, Sue Bird, never one to sit silently on the sidelines, jumped straight into the fray. True to her fiery nature, she pushed back with force, tearing into the way the media has shaped and sensationalized the situation, calling out ESPN specifically for amplifying it into something far larger than the moment itself. Sue made it clear the question posed wasn't necessarily racist on its own, but the way it was packaged, circulated, and exaggerated by certain media voices, that's where the real trouble started. She took aim at the framing, the spin, the tone, the narrative being constructed, and argued that that is where the bias truly showed. And she didn't stop there. Sue highlighted a long-standing, uncomfortable truth. Athletes of color often face harsher, more unforgiving scrutiny than white athletes in similar situations. She posed a pointed, uncomfortable question, one that grabbed everyone's attention. What happens when a black athlete is involved in the same kind of controversial moment? Suddenly, something that might be brushed off as minor for others gets blown up, reframed as something serious, contentious, or, in the worst cases, instantly labeled as racially charged. It's a pattern that magnifies every detail and turns small incidents into massive narratives.
I disagree with you on Christine Brennan's question being dickish, or she shouldn't have answered it, because it was something that was out there that everybody was talking about. And so she asked the question, and it was a great opportunity for Carrington to, on the record, say, no, I didn't do it. And that's all that happened. So I do disagree with you. I don't think it was a dickish question. I think it was a fine question based on what was going on at the moment.
Sue, always razor sharp in how she reads a room, immediately linked this moment to something far bigger, a sprawling, complex pattern she believes has been playing out for years. You could almost see her gearing up, ready to tear down the dominant narratives piece by piece. Christine, even though she likely never imagined her original question would snowball like this, didn't stay silent either. She openly called out both the WNBA and the media for failing to shut down the swirling rumors, instead letting them spread unchecked until they practically ignited into chaos. Sue doubled down on her broader point. In her view, if Carrington had been a white athlete, the reaction would have been dramatically different, quieter, less sensationalized, and unlikely to capture national attention. But flip the scenario, she argued, and the double standard becomes clear. If a white player had been in Carrington's exact spot, the moment would have exploded into an entirely different storyline. An overanalyzed, fully dramatized saga, complete with endless debates, sweeping interpretations, and wall-to-wall national coverage. In Sue's eyes, this wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a window into how narratives are shaped and who gets treated fairly within them.
To the Twitter trolls and bots taking over. And what started there was this narrative of petty, jealous players hating on Caitlin. Mm-hmm. That's really what happened. That's where it started, that we must just dislike her, that we look at her side-eyed, that we don't want her to come in the WNBA and be successful, that we're hating on her, right? So we're petty.
And here's the moment everything truly spun out of control. What started as a heated debate quickly morphed into absolute chaos as social media, especially Twitter, was flooded with waves of trolls and bad faith accounts fanning the flames. A toxic narrative began to take shape, suggesting that critics of Caitlin Clark were simply jealous, petty, or threatened by her rise. That seed, people just don't like her, spread rapidly, twisting the conversation into something far darker. The implication was unmistakable. Anyone questioning her wasn't debating basketball. They were supposedly envious, biased, or acting out of resentment. Sue Bird broke this down with almost surgical precision. She explained how the catalyst for this spiral was a single, offhand remark by WNBA legend Diana Taurasi during a podcast discussion. Nobody, not even Taurasi herself, seemed to realize how powerful those few casual words would become. But in hindsight, that comment lit the fuse that sent the entire conversation bursting into a wildfire of controversy. Suddenly, the WNBA was engulfed in an all-out storm, a tidal wave of reactions, arguments, and accusations. And once again, Sue stepped into the role of stabilizing force, explaining just how unpredictable and far-reaching the ripple effects of those comments were. This one moment expanded far beyond basketball, far beyond rivalry and way beyond normal sports debate. When Sue said things got ugly, she wasn't talking about simple competitive banter. She was referring to something much more unsettling. The moment when legitimate sports conversation was drowned out by hostility, personal attacks, and even hate-filled rhetoric. The dialogue stopped being about jump shots, rookies, and matchups, and instead veered straight into thorny issues like race, privilege, and all the uncomfortable tensions that erupt when a conversation derails this badly. In other words, once the discourse went off the rails, the game itself almost didn't matter anymore. The real battle became everything happening around it.
At any point did I think anybody was playing dirty against Caitlyn. Not at any point did I think Caitlyn was targeted. And I'm going to stop on that word because what happened was these petty jealousy narratives that got formed. Then when the season started and people saw people blocking Caitlyn's shot or picking her up full court, it then became, oh, they're targeting her. Oh.
When Sue Bird dropped the bombshell that Caitlin Clark was facing far more than the usual elbows and trash talk on the court, she did not hold back. This wasn't just symbolic blows or verbal jabs. Clark was actively navigating real physical threats, and the pressure she felt went far beyond normal game strategy. Every time she stepped on the court, she had to be prepared for more than just opposing plays. She was contending with targeted contempt and malicious behavior from other players. Sue made it clear that this wasn't merely a strong defensive posture on Clark's part. The already intense physicality of WNBA play paled in comparison to the personal, spiteful, and ugly aggression aimed directly at her. And Sue didn't shy away from the deeper issue, the racial undertones that made Clark's experience so uniquely challenging. This wasn't simply about attention or promotion. It was about systemic inequities, privilege, and the ways some players of color perceived Clark's rapid success as a painful reflection of broader issues affecting their own careers. Sue insisted that what was happening had transcended sports entirely. It had become a glaring spotlight on pervasive racism and deep-seated frustrations boiling over in real time, with Caitlin Clark caught squarely in the crossfire.